The Box Seat brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Stonewall Stud, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, Garrard's Horse and Hound, and IRT. It's your horse and our passion. Hi everyone, welcome into another edition of Your Box Seat, and a big thank you to our stable of sponsors. Michael Guerin, I hope you got some Easter treats. I think the punters did out of Addington on Saturday night, another exceptional night at the raceway.
They're getting a few more this Friday night, Greg. Big hi to everybody around New Zealand and of course our viewers in Australia. What a wonderful meeting this Friday night is. So much form, Greg, tunnelling into it, and I think the bookmakers, looking at the early odds, have given punters a real chance. 3 horses I thought would be odds on, and potentially 4 who could start odds on, Greg. On Wednesday morning, you're able to get better than $2 for. So real chances there. We'll discuss those on Your Box Seat today.
Yep, we'll get into those virtually straight away. First race we'll go back and have a look at from Saturday night though, 73rd running of the Brecon Farms Easter Cup. It was a bit of an all-star domination in the end. Here was the start though, and all importantly, Self Assured stepped beautifully to the inside of the yellow colours, the jewels colours being worn there by Amazing Dream. Michael, that was an important part of the race, and then about a lap later, the race was pretty much over.
Look, it was. Clearly he's third last here now. He's about to move, and Amazing Dream goes in front of him. So once they come like this, there's not much way Nathan Williamson can park out 3 of the Cullen runners. So he has to hand up, and therefore they get the option to hand up to each other, and that pins Self Assured in front. Then you've got a New Zealand Cup winner who's also won an Auckland Cup in front of the Auckland Cup winner. That's only ever going to end one way. Spanker makes his move later on. Thought he was really good after having to sit parked. He hasn't had a lot of luck this campaign, Spanker, but here's what they did up the straight with Matt Cross in the Brecon Farms Easter Cup.
It's Self Assured finding Spankin won't go away. Amazing Dream back to the far side. Self Assured kicking over Spankin, then Amazing Dream. It's Self Assured just in front from Spankin, but Amazing Dream. Self Assured down to the post. He'll win the Easter Cup. Self Assured wins it, beats Spankin. Amazing Dream third, 4th in Pembroke Playboy.
Congratulations, Hayden. It's one of our great races, the Easter Cup.
It is, Greg. Yeah, it's a huge honour, you know, and great thrill to run 1, 2 and 3.
Let's talk about the winner, Self Assured. The key was at the start, but he was actually moving nicely when the tape's released, and he stepped beautifully.
He did, Greg, yeah. Once he sort of gets those first 3 or 4 steps out the way, he's pretty safe, you know, and yeah, he got away cleanly, and yeah, it showed in the finish. Excellent
performance from Spankum, sitting park. Yeah, the overall time wasn't as quick as we know these horses can go, but for a horse that's dubbed so many times he's not a 2-miler, he's pretty brave.
I thought he was really brave, you know. He's a great sit-and sprinter too, you know, so to sit outside them, I thought it was a great run.
An Amazing Dream going her usual honest race, but those 2 with that quick last quarter, they were just a little bit too speedy for her, but she was good.
Yeah, she was very good. Yeah, Nat said she sort of just couldn't go any quicker, you know. She tried her heart out, but just with those fast sectionals there later on, you know, it was just too much to make up.
Right, what about plans going forward? Self Assured could go to the Superstars if it's here next week. What about Spankum? What do you do with him?
Yeah, well, Spankum, there's a free-for-all on the 18th at Rangiora, so we'll look to head there next. So, yeah, that's probably not really much else for him, to be honest.
Yeah, and what about the mare? Have we got laid out plans for her?
Look, she's eligible for that race next week too, so we'll just see how she gets through the weekend, and she'll either go there or she'll head straight to Auckland for the Taylor Milo Messenger.
Well, he just couldn't win the way the race panned out.
No, that's right, but he hit the line great in his first race, you know, against the real big boys over 2 miles here. I was thrilled with the way he went.
So Superstars for him, and you've still got some decent goals towards the back end of the season.
Yeah, that's right, Superstars. I've sort of ruled out Auckland trip, but you know, we'll just keep him pretty active down home, and then look at taking him up for the Jewels to finish the season. But no, it's all sort of a learning curve for him for next season, but we're pretty excited with where he's heading.
So 15 from 26 for Self Assured. 5 seconds slower, Michael, than he had to go when he won the IRT New Zealand Cup. And he was excellent in front. Lot to like about Pembroke Playboy, though. And this week's Superstars, I don't think there'll be any handing up over the shorter course from Nathan Williamson. He wants to find out whether this horse is good enough to beat Amazing Dream and Self Assured. And we're going to find out Friday night.
Well, he's beaten Self-Assured already, so we know he can do it with cover. Whether he can do it in front, well, 1980's the perfect time to try. He could have tried last week, but over 2 miles, that goes pear-shaped, and you put your whole campaign on the back foot. Over 1980, if you get roughed up or at that sort of 155 speed, it's pretty hard for horses to attack. So you've got a couple of buffers there from having too hard a run. I think this is the week to have a crack at it. Had a long talk to Nathan on Tuesday night. He said, that's my first mindset. I'm not absolutely sure that's what I'll do. The problem would seem to be Self-Assured is quicker off the gate than Amazing Dream. So it's only if, Pembroke Playboy gets across to the lead, Self-Assured sitting outside him, Amazing Dream comes and sit park. Amazing Dream, A, can attack Greg, and B, that puts Self-Assured in the 1-1. For that reason, I'm very happy to take 2.1 about Self-Assured. I'm still not sure where he's at. When he won the New Zealand Cup, on that day, you would have thought maybe Lochinvar the only horse in Australasia who's as good as him or can beat him, because Ride High was injured, and of course King of Swing we see more as a Menangle type horse. I'm not sure he's got any better since then, and it almost feels like he's got worse. And now, I know that's a really weird thing to say about a horse who just won an Easter Cup, but he didn't run away from Spankham after Spankham sat parked. He's been beaten a lot since that New Zealand Cup. I'm not picking on the horse, Greg, but I think the expectations for Self-Assured are so high that I would like to see him be winning those races easier. Am I reading that wrong, or is that how you feel about him as well? I
thought he should have won a lot easier. Spankham was getting closer to him at the line again, and let's not decry his performance, because I did think it was outstanding, and I mentioned in that interview with Hayden, you know, often we say, oh, he's not quite a 2-miler. He's been placed in the big 2-mile races, all 3 of them now this season, so you can't say that he's not a stayer, because he clearly is, and you have to be a stayer to win a Miracle Mile, and we know how well he did that. But I think you might be right in saying that if he gets the right run this week, he's still the fastest horse in the race for mine, Self-Assured, so he might win. So 210 about him, 360 the other two, Amazing Dream, who was still very good in the Easter Cup, and of course Pembroke Playboy. Of the 3 then, you're happy to be with the multiple cups winner now then?
I just think that speed maps can go badly wrong, but I don't see him being anywhere else but parked or in the 1-1. Probably in the 1-1, which gives him a great chance to win the race. I don't know, we're Self-Assured at the moment. In September, October, I would have taken $1.50 who would win this race, and it would have taken $1.80 who would have won any race, particularly a mobile. He's got beaten so many times by then. I want to see him come out one night and do something dramatic. I would like to see that, because at the moment I think we've got a muddling bunch of open class horses. And I wouldn't back Self-Assured to beat Copy That at the moment. And I wouldn't back either of them to beat Lochinvar or Ride High or King of Swing at their best. And it's been a long, long time since Australia's potentially had 3 better horses than what we've got, Greg. So it's interesting to see where they're all going. I think Self-Assured could win this week, and I think those doubts percolating through the bookies and through punters because of those multiple defeats since he's won the New Zealand Cup is the reason you're getting 210, who for a horse back in September, I think got as short as $1.70 to win the New Zealand Cup.
Yep. So that's the IRT Superstars Championship. Looking forward to that one, which will be race number 11 of 12 on the big premiere night. Back to Saturday night, and the Woodlands Mile for the trotters, Michael, was always going to be an interesting contest. Oscar Bonavina returned, of course. He drew the outside of the gate. That's time in the bottle on the inside. Watch the early gate speed with John Morrison aboard. Actually held on nicely for 4th. The Dominator made its way to the lead, and Chinese Whispers just in behind there in the Nathan Williamson colours, just getting a little bit rocky in the early stages of the race, but certainly wasn't rocky in the latter part. They went 157.6, and he's now won 8 from 14. Excellent performance, winning 6 of his last 7. He picks up Oscar Bonavina, and then we'll hear from Nathan Williamson and get a reaction from Mark Purdon on the other side.
Trying to run down the Dominator. Chinese Whisper off the back of Oscar Bonavina. Oscar Bonavina, Chinese Whisper coming. Oscar Bonavina, but Chinese Whisper right over the top. Chinese Whisper. Chinese Whisper by 2 lengths, Oscar Bonavina. 3rd, the Dominator, 4th time in a bottle.
Nathan, you've been very patient before coming to Addington Raceway with this horse, and that's going to stand to him now.
Yeah, that was real good, Greg. I was wrapped with him tonight, and yeah, I wanted to wait for the right time to bring him, and yeah, it looks as though tonight was the right time. He's done that nice, you know.
Wasn't in it early, you just had to hold on, but gee, once you got the back of Oscar Bonavina, he showed really good speed, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was probably giving him a couple of lengths sort of at the 400, and he rounded them up really nice. Yeah, just he's lacks experience over that short distance mile racing, and when they really gunned off the gate, he was sort of a wee bit, you know, he trotted a wee bit roughly on me, but I'm sure he'll get that in time. But yeah, no, I was wrapped with the way he finished it off.
Nathan, he's starting to get a good horse's record here. He's won 8 of 14. What do you do with him now?
Yeah, we'll just tick away with him down home. I'll probably give him another couple of starts down home. I may bring him back up here in the winter if they have some free-for-alls through the winter, and just keep him a little bit active, and then you know, put him aside and bring him back up here next spring. But we'll just be patient with him and space him out a little bit, and just, you know, look after him. But no, he's got the speed there. He just needs the ring craft.
Mark, although he didn't win, there was plenty to like about that.
Yes, I was wrapped with the performance, Greg, and you know, I think he's going to take 3 runs before we see him at his peak. So you know, delighted that he did everything right and you know, performed as well as he did.
Is the plan to have him here next week for the trotting championship?
Yes, yeah, it'll be another run under his belt. He's not ready to take on a couple of those other guys. They'll be too good for him next week. But as I say, by the time he's had 3 runs under his belt, he'll be ready for them.
Really interesting comments there from Mark Purdon around Oscar Bonavina. He's got barrier 8 in the Fred Shaw Trotting Championship this week, Michael. Just back to Nathan Williamson, very much like with Pembroke Playboy, now Chinese Whisper. He's thinking about the future with these horses. He's taking his time, he's picking his targets, and this horse, main target, I'm thinking, will be the Trotting Free-for-All on Cup Day, and he's working his way back from there.
I wouldn't be surprised, Greg, if there were offers for a horse like him. People see them coming from a Southland barn and they think, oh, we can probably improve that. I'm not sure they can, but he's got so much potential that you can't buy Oscar Bonavina, Bolt for Brilliance or Sunday Sun. You can't buy them. They're not for sale. So all of a sudden you go, well, maybe I could buy Chinese Whisper. And he's got plenty of ability. You can imagine him ending up at Menangle because the Inter-Dominions are at the end of the year, or in North America. So maybe hold the phone on that. Oscar Bonavina, I feel sorry for, Greg, because the expectations are enormous. We mentioned Self-Assured here before. He was up here. People were talking about him going to North America to race. And because he's been injured and come back, he hasn't got that residual fitness. So he's on a hiding to nothing. I also think the hype got too big on the horse, and we all contributed to that because we all bought into his sectional times about 18 months ago. So I'm just calling the Jets on Oscar. From a wide draw this week, you'd be stunned if he could win against Sunday Sun and Bolt for Brilliance. The mile trot at Addington, Greg, I love any time anybody does something different than harness racing. I wouldn't care if they held a 400-metre race. Good luck to them. Try different things. Make it interesting. But one thing I don't like being tried is starting on a bend. I don't think it works. Now, I understand that the word standard bred comes from standard, the old traditional mile, way back in the late 1800s being a mile and 2:30. That's what the word standard means from standard bred. And I understand that mile racing means a lot to people in harness racing. But if your track's not right for it, it's not right for it. We've got plenty of tracks that are right for it. Ashburton being the obvious one. I don't know, you spend more time at Addington than me. Is there any point holding mile races at Addington? Are we just kidding ourselves? Because in any other industry of the 3 codes, you wouldn't start a race on a bend. So why bother doing it?
I don't mind if it's a race. And let's face it, it is a race. That's all it was. The winner came from 2 on the second row. The second horse came from the outside of the front row. So all of the theories about you have to draw 1, 2 or 3 to win. As long as that's it, and we don't attempt to try and do it again. I mean, hey, we had the Jewels there, Michael, which was so traditionally mile racing, and there was never any consideration for the races to be run over a mile. So a one-off like that, absolutely. Yeah. They tried it for the New Zealand Pacing Free-for-All, you will remember, the one that Gold Ace won, I'm pretty sure. Didn't really work. So it got thrown out. But as a one-off, if it's part of the Easter Carnival as it was this year, yeah, I think okay.
It doesn't bother me. You know, if people want to bet into it, they want to bet into it. It's just a weird thing to do. Like you're starting a race on a bend, and there's no other races that start on bends pretty much in the world. So I don't see the point in doing it, because the people who watch racing don't care about mile times. They do it at Menangle because it's a mile track and it's based on that, but they don't care about a mile time at Addington. So I would just give up on it. Let's pretend it didn't happen. We don't need them anymore. We're not kidding anybody. Not taking anything away from the winner. He was fantastic because he did run past a pretty good horse. Oscar will keep improving. We all know that. Thought Time in a Bottle was really good.
Yeah.
Drops massively down in grade this week. But that brings us, Greg, to this week and the free for all. And interesting, Bolt for Brilliance inside Sunday Sun in the market. Now, if you had told people a month ago, 3 months ago, or 6 months ago that was happening, they would have found that pretty hard to believe.
Yeah, $2.80 for Bolt for Brilliance. I think that's an outstanding price. He was superb winning last time, and from that inside draw, he's going to have the option, Tony Hurley, to dictate the race. Spoke to John Dunn about Sunday. He said, yes, he's improved, but he'll need to, and he's drawn out a wee bit. So he's $3.30. Then you get out to $5 Oscar Bonavina, who Mark Purdens said can't win. And from that draw, I have to concur. I didn't think he probably could anyway, Michael, but from out there. And Muscle Mountain, who might well be the forgotten horse, he's $4. I'm pretty sure he'll get closer to $5 and even maybe a touch more by the time they jump in this race. But I think Bolt has all of the cards in this year's Fred Shaw.
I think a crucial thing for Bolt for Brilliance is this. He doesn't have the absolute gate speed to lead for fun, because Splash Cola next to him is a really good quick beginner, and so is the Dominator. But I think over the last 30 years, when Tony's been in a race where he's made it very clear he would like to lead, 90% of the time he gets what he wants. I think because there's only a front line, there's no second line in this race, Splash Cola may take the option to go straight in behind Bolt for Brilliance, which is one less rival who can cross him. Then the Dominator, I think they would have comparable-ish gate speed if Tony warms them up in the prelim. That puts him in front. And in front, that means Sunday Sun's got to sit parked outside to beat him. Last time he tried that, he couldn't do it. I think he'll get closer, but I think leading's crucial. Flip that around. Splash Cola crosses him at the start, which could happen. Dominator gets involved, then Sunday Sun can go forward and the whole thing changes. So
yeah.
I don't think that will happen because there's no second line. If I'm driving Splash Cola, which would be very bad for Splash Cola if I was doing that, you would go straight behind Bolt for Brilliance and you're following the favourite in a Group 1 race. So that's what I think will happen, Greg, but 280's fair enough, but someone's got to drift, and it's pretty hard to imagine Sunday Sun's going to drift too much. So Oscar Bonavina might double in price, and you're right, Muscle Mountain, who in a year's time could win this race and will go a big race because he's a wonderful horse. I think he'll be $6 or $7 by the time they get ready to rock.
I think Regan Todd and the connections of Splash Cola will be happy with Robbie Close driving their horse, Michael. Just on Brad Williamson, he's out of MIQ, so he's back in Oamaru. Looking forward to seeing his horse Cracker Hill, of course. And I spoke to Phil Williamson about Ultimate Stride, Michael, who was disappointing at Wyndham. They've got some work to do there. He wasn't that good at the trials yesterday either, so we won't be seeing him in the short term. Continuing with our look back at Addington from Saturday night, let's go to one of the key lead-ups to the Diamond Creek New Zealand Derby, and it was the winning performance of Shan Noble. That's him getting out of barrier 2, saddlecloth 3 head on. Rock and Roll Rod to his outside. Michael's very quick, but Shan Noble held him comfortably, and the bright colours there of Luke John secured the trail, many expecting him to get further back. But Shan Noble's lifted the bar a wee bit, and his run here I thought was very good, Michael.
It was very good against the sort of 3rd to 7th seeds. Now he holds them here up the lane in 26 and change, so they're not going to run past you going that type of speed. Of the 3-year-olds, it's all about faith, where you can completely leave me out of him. I'm not slagging the horse, I just don't think he's that well suited to New Zealand type racing. Maybe the Jewels at Cambridge, they can prep him up and get him flying and get him off the gate. If he can lead, he can win a race, but I can't see him winning a Derby. Shan Noble would have given a Derby chance to, but he's got barrier 8, which will become barrier 7. That's less than advantageous. The question mark for those horses is going to be what happens at the start. BD Joe has really high gate speed. If he goes forward and leads, are they happy to take a trail? They weren't in the Sile Stakes. Are they happy to take a trail over 2,600 metres? If they do take a trail, is it behind It's All About Faith? And if It's All About Faith doesn't look to try that hard from behind, does Mark Purdon have to stay in front? Where does that put Shan Noble? More importantly, where does that put Krug? So it's quite a complex mix early doors. Now, with Krug, they can't go back at the start because there's 6 on the second line. They go back at the start, they'll last. Spoke to Crandell Giddy about him, as we see here, his flying stakes win of 2 weeks ago. They would love to see him in front here. By the way, couple of horses to watch here out wide. BD Joe right down the outside, Luke John, and that's Yarakobi up the inside. So that's what they want to see, Greg. And if you're taking 2.4 for Krug this week, this is what you want to see. You want to see him in front. I'm not sure he'll get there, Greg, and I'm not sure if he gets there, he can muscle his way there. They're going to need to say on BD Joe, It's All About Faith, and Shan Noble were willing to drive for second or think our best chance is taking a trail. That's a lot of people who have to be thinking the same thing, Greg, for Krug to get the lead. I still think he'll win because he didn't have things go his way in the Northern Derby. He won by 5. He bolted in there. Spoke to Crandell Getty at length on Tuesday night. He said the horse has improved, clearly, since the Flying Stakes. Worked him Monday morning, said he worked super, as good as he's ever worked. So the horsepower is not the doubt. If he's in front after 400, Greg, or 600 or 800, you'd be thrilled with your 2.4. But there's a reason not many horses have won the double. Not many horses have won the Northern Derby and the New Zealand Derby unless they go on to be open class stars. It's that hard to do. Is he an open class star of the future? Greg, maybe he is. I guess we'll find out on Friday night.
Yeah, $2.40 for him as we look at the market. Luke John, $7. Tony Hurley to drive him. Mark Purdon sticks with It's All About Faith. He's got out to $16, Michael. $7.50 for Shan Noble. And Regazzo Mark, who was a one-time favourite, or Mac, he's out to $7.50 as well. He actually trialled yesterday at Oamaru, being Tuesday that was, and home and better than 55. Nathan said he's got him where he wants to have him, but it is his final run for the stable, and he'll be hoping that they do go to war up front because that will give him his best chance in what should be another epic derby, one of the key Group 1 races at Addington Raceway on Friday night. Let's continue on with our look at the Group 1s and we look at the trotting derby and 5 Wise Men, Michael, who deserves to be a dominant favourite for it. I think he's come up with almost the perfect draw, and this is him winning a couple of weeks ago and winning in really good style. He was beating Time Up the Hill, who's run 4th in the Oaks. Son of Patrick, who won a very good race on Saturday night again, but he looks like he has got the wood on them, and therefore the $2.30 punters, or many, will be prepared to take that.
I'm actually surprised he's in the black. I thought he would be about $1.80, $1.90. I don't see many other horses in the race people are going to want to back. It's not like you have a dominant Cullen or All Stars, whatever you want to call them, type horse to take him on. Here he is at the trials, and this is last week. He seems to be trotting pretty darn squarely, and he seems to be very safe recently, Greg. So, look, it's hard to go past him. I just can't pick a horse in this race to beat him, and the horses I do like in the race, I think the only horse who has his raw ability is Leaf Stride. Now, you spoke to Phil Williamson last night. How does he rate his two, including Leaf Stride, who maybe at least has a similar sized motor?
Yeah, well, he's come up with barrier 5, and he's a $6 chance in there. Loving the Port's got barrier 1. And Matthew Williamson was at a gathering last night for Brad coming home, and heard him in the background saying he was very happy. Well, I was talking to Phil, that was, with the way he trialled. So he's got barrier 1, shortest way home over those distance races for age group horses. We know that can be hugely advantageous. I've been slightly disappointed. I know Phil has been as well in a couple of his runs, most notably the Hambletonian. But yeah, if he gets the right sort of run, I think he's a pretty good stayer, and he can get some money in it. But 5 Wise Men certainly deserves to be favourite for the trotting derby, and most are expecting him to be successful, and Craig Edmonds and John Dunn combining, there'd be a pretty special win for them if they are able to take that out. Out of My Way is the one I'm not sure about, Michael. I thought last year he won the Harness Million, of course, that a derby distance would be absolutely right up this horse's alley, but he hasn't really had a great preparation, but he's got the Paul Nairn factor.
Yeah, had a good talk to Paul about where he was at. He had that setback about a month ago, and he's a big horse. He's not a horse I would think would just turn up to the races really fit. I think he would race himself into fitness. I think we saw that last campaign. So he was my derby tip 6 months ago. But very few horses win derbies in any code. after having a setback on the way there. It just doesn't happen very often. So willing to put him to the side, interested to see if he comes to Auckland and how he performs there. I think he's a long-term horse, but I just don't want to be on air horse to win a Derby, Greg, even with Paul Nairn doing the job, when they've had that level of setback. And they've had one run, whereas almost all the other key runners here have had close enough to perfect lead up. Son of Patrick, obviously 5 wise men or 3 wise men, depending on which way you like to call them, and even horses like Want to Play With Me. Those horses have had perfect preparations. Out of my way is not that much better than them, that he can beat them without having a perfect preparation.
78th Livermore New Zealand Trotting Derby. Just news through from the bookies as well. Back to Krug. Multiple bets before the draw, including a couple of thousand, then a whole lot of $1,000 bets on him. Got him as short as $1.90, and the biggest bet on 5 wise men has been a $3,500 outlay. About to take a short break here on your box seat, but Michael Guerin, our family, the trackside family if you like, lost a very special part of the dynasty, I suppose, over the last 4 or 5 years of trackside. Andy Kidd, who was head of media and international, all of the content that was on trackside over the last 4 or 5 years. He was the boss, a terrific fella, and taken way, way too early. His contribution to trackside and New Zealand racing would never be overstated.
Now, Andy passed away on Sunday night. He had a long battle with blood cancer. Hell of a good fella, family man, but also one of the bosses at trackside who wanted to see the best. He wanted to see shows on like this show, and he wanted to see coverage done well. During that period, Greg, he fought cancer. He came into the office. He was a guy who never moaned about it, never complained about his lot and this terrible disease he was fighting. I last spoke to him via text a couple of weeks ago, and he said, look, it's been bloody tough. So I'm glad he's at rest. I feel terrible for his family that he's passed, and the racing broadcasting medium, even though many people watching this show would never have heard of Andy Kidd, you can trust us when we say that he was responsible for some really good things happening inside the building I'm sitting in now and for trackside in New Zealand. So personally and as a business, was saddened by his departure.
Yeah, certainly. Rest in peace, Andy. Time for us to take a short break on your box seat. Welcome back into your box seat. Don't forget to get in contact with us either via email or of course on our Twitter handle. Just take a break from Addington for a moment, go back to the Wyndham Club resuming racing there last Thursday, and we had the time-honoured Kindergarten Stakes. We'll get to that in a moment because here's the Wyndham Cup, Michael Guerin, and Memphis, Tennessee, 4:01.9 the winning time. John Morrison doing the steering here for Brett Gray. He's putting together a pretty good record, this horse, and he's now won over 120,000.
He's had 8 career wins, Greg, and 7 of those have been in the south. So as a horse who spent most of his life being trained by the Schmiels in Canterbury, he's won the majority of his races down the deep south. I had to talk to Brett Gray, who, by the way, was training his 200th winner in the Wyndham Cup. So it's a big effort from Brett. He doesn't overtrain a lot of horses, and he sells a lot of horses. So I said, what do you do with this horse? He said, I don't know. We've got a couple more races to go. The Country Cup's final, but after that, it might be hard finding races for him, because you think, okay, even if he doesn't pop up to Addington, he can race down home, but down home's got Vintage Cheetah, down home's got Pembroke Playboy. You May Collect may come back to the races. Obviously, he's a horse who has been sidelined again. So Brett was thinking, look, we don't really know. He's a lovely horse to do anything with. He's had 8 wins. He's done a great job so far. So you would think, Greg, maybe he's a horse who might end up on the market because he might do a job in Australia, but gee, it's going to be hard after 8 wins now to find easy kills for him anywhere in the South Island.
Yeah, Max Back was excellent in second. News that the Alice Barclay team has been disbanded, Michael. 85 wins over 3 seasons, of course, highlighted by Watch Me Now winning the Breeders, and also You May Collect doing some really good things. I'm All About the Base was good in 3rd, and in 4th was Melton Mafia, a return to the track after a bit of time on the sideline for Gordon Lee. But just on the Alice Barclay team, their strike rate's been exceptional, Michael, and they grabbed that Group 1 success.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it works, because I think Tank does the beach training side of it, and Kirsten has her own barn. So they're both skilled horse people, so you wouldn't have an issue having a horse with either of them. Interesting to see how they go with their careers, whether it's like so many people down south, they prep horses and sell them, or whether they're able to get big enough teams to make a splash. You May Collect obviously has been sidelined again. I'm not sure about the extent of that injury, but you would think his season's probably over. There's not much more coming up, Greg. I hope he comes back, and I hope his legs hold together. But when you run that fast and you've got any sort of weakness, it's probably going to get exposed.
Let's go to that 2-year-old feature. First run in 1961, the Kindergarten Stakes, and incidentally, Lordship won that one. Young Quinn won about 10 years later. Master Mood won 10 years after that, so we know what those horses all went on. And did Akuta in the Ian Dobson colours here. Bollinger to its outside, so the Hayden Cullen pair went to war, but the raps on Akuta were big before the race, Michael. And the son of Better's Delight delivered in good style for Blair Orange in the bright green Ian Dobson colours, and well, he goes this week to the Welcome Stakes and has come up with an inside barrier draw again.
He's one of those horses, Greg, the bookies have bought up over $2. I thought it would be under $2. I wouldn't be stunned if he started at $1.60. At the top of the straight here, they ran up to him and it looked like they were going to challenge him or potentially run past, but at the line I think he was holding them pretty well, which isn't a bad effort for a horse on debut. He's up against 3 or 4 pretty handy stablemates from Hayden Cullen's team at the inside barrier. Mark Purdon, who co-owns the horse, hops on. I don't imagine the stablemates are going to be roughing him up if he's good enough to lead. There's actually a bit of gate speed outside him, but he has all the favours, Greg. I think he'll start odds on, and I think he'll probably win. I don't have enough data, I don't think anybody does, on just how good all these horses are. I think most of them are probably comparable, maybe within a length of each other. And then the question is how much they improve over the next month or two. One thing I've learned in the last 10 years, if you're looking for horses to improve, if they're by Better's Delight, they'll tend to keep improving. And Akuta is that. So I think he'll win this week. I think he'll pay $1.60 or $1.70. When you're watching this, if you can get your $2.10 or a bit better, you should probably take it.
Yeah, $2.40 at the moment, Michael. $4.50 for Cosmic Major, $3.10 for Franco Mack, who will have the services of Natalie Rasmussen again. Looking forward to the Avon City Ford Welcome Stakes. Gee, they've sponsored that race for a very long time. John Luxton and the team there. Continue our look at the juveniles. Let's go to the 2-year-old trotting stakes from last Saturday and hear from John Dunn post-race. Excellent performance from Highgrove. This one sponsored by Majestic Sun, but it wasn't all beer and skittles for the punters from the start.
Benellaria Sand, who's running on from Mystic Max inside the 75. Things weren't looking too flash at the start, but Highgrove's going to do it. Highgrove wins the Group 3. Second, Benellaria Sand. Wi-Fi third.
Nervous times early on.
Yeah, he sort of don't get keen, or he's sort of halfway knuckled over. He's probably going, he's too lazy, but luckily he didn't gallop for long and come back pretty quick, which is the main thing.
Johnny got round them at the right time. They were not going very fast at that stage of the race, so once you got there, he was clearly the one to beat. He's actually won pretty easily in the end.
Yeah, he has. He's still he's not switched on yet, but like you say, they were just dawdling around. So lucky I didn't lose enough to be I didn't lose a lot, so I could do that. And like you say, he still had a bit there at the finish.
Okay, he's got a few decent sort of targets still to come, so where do you go next?
Yeah, just take. He's a big fella. Time's going to be his best friend, so we don't want to be too hard on him too soon. So we'll space his races and just sort of target the next one in a few weeks' time.
He's got the New Zealand Bloodstock Harness Million in May. I think it's about the 14th, Michael, and then the Sire Stakes the 21st, and then potentially the Jewels. You don't normally in a group race gallop and lose a stretch. I don't know how far exactly it was, but it was a good 60-odd metres. Come back down over the short course and beat them up. What did help him was the overall mile rate was about 2:03, late 2:03. So if they'd gone sort of 3 or 4 seconds faster, there's no chance, or 3 seconds faster, that he would have been able to do that. But he's the best at the moment.
By quite some margin. I was watching that and he disappeared out the back of the screen and I was like, oh, I didn't know the bet. I was just watching to see how they went. And once they disappeared out the back of the screen, because most people are watching on track, so I just sort of give up on them. That didn't have to be the case. He was just better than them. You talk about them going 3 or 4 seconds faster. Maybe it's indicative of this crop that they're not good enough to go 3 or 4 seconds faster. I do think this crop, it looks immature. There's a lot of horses here who are getting their bums around on the cart and they're trotting rough and galloping late. And they may well be really good 3-year-olds, but it doesn't look a really buzzy, natural 2-year-old crop. It's not a crop where you go, wow, well, there's this, and this. At the moment, there's just him.
Yep.
So all conversations about any bet start with him and end with him, and start with probably will he gallop or not.
Yep.
Because, Greg, if you lose that much ground and you still win, well, then if you trot all the way, you're going to win by more.
Yes.
That would seem logical.
Yeah, hard to argue with that, Michael. Let's have a look at True Fantasy, who of course was tipped out on the show last week by Michael Guerin. That's him in the trail. Natalie Rasmussen, very good second by this filly first up, and the way she dashed up the lane here, she did this all under her own steam, Michael, and she's the favourite for the Sire Stakes final. $3.20 if you want to back her in that, and well, the way she won this, there's a lot to look forward to for her.
Well, she sort of does look a natural 2-year-old type. She's not overly big. She skips over the ground pretty nicely. She doesn't look disorganised in her gait. She seems to want to be there. She should. She's bred to be pretty darn good. Yeah, she deserves to be the 2-year-old favourite until we see there's a better version out there somewhere. Of course, we do have all the horses who raced in the Delightful Lady in the North, and then some of them were pretty nice horses. We saw a really good winning performance at Alexandra Park about 2 weeks ago from a horse coming from last. So I'm not saying she's just going to turn up and win, but of those ones, she looks the best, Greg. Again, not a screwed down crop. These big races are going to come around really quickly, and it could come down to barrier draws. But for once, we have a very unusual situation, which is what's usually called the All-Stars, but now called the Hayden Cullen horses, didn't go to Auckland. So since they didn't go to Auckland, it was a totally different bunch of horses raced in the big 2-year-old races at Auckland, the Delightful Lady on this occasion, the Group 2, to this bunch. So when they finally meet, Greg, I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's good because we don't know. Whereas had she gone to Auckland and beaten those horses, everybody in Auckland goes, oh, I don't want to race her again. And they'd put him in the paddock. Well, that's what happens in harness racing. So often the pecking order is established so quickly, people just throw their hands in the air and don't want to go. But we're going to get to a duels, which thank God is at Cambridge this year.
Yep.
Because the Southerners are usually pretty keen to come north. Like Hayden Cullen might bring 15 horses, he might bring 20, I don't know. Whereas it's a lot easier for the Northerners to say, we're not going south to take on the All-Stars or Hayden Cullen or whoever
on their
else
home patch, yeah.
So on their home track, I think the duels this year, the strength of it's going to be that there's going to be the Southerners will come, there's no doubts about that, and the Northerners have had enough stake money boosts through not having to take on these horses at the Derby Carnival. I think we're going to have a really cool situation at the duels of going into some of these races, Greg, unsure who the top dog is. So of the Southerners, I would suggest it's probably her at this stage.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the progress of all of those 2-year-olds we've just looked at, just on Addington Friday night as well. Two $25,000 quaddies, as was the case on the first night of the Big Three. And Mark Jones sent me through a text. Majestic Lavros goes round in about race 10 or 11, race 10 I think it is. Punters beware. He's had a few issues, feet issues, so he might not be at the level that you know Majestic Lavros can be at. So thanks to Mark for passing that on nice and early for the punters. Looking forward to those other markets coming out with Matthew Peden and the team there with the bookmakers. We need to go across the Tasman, Michael, get you to take us through some of these with Garrards, and Wolf Stride continues his huge rise upward, if you like, in terms of the open class ranks. Here he was grabbing Group 1 success at the Riverina.
A 152-mile rate for 2,270 metres. This is a remarkable story. So he's won here. This is a new $100,000 race. They have a Riverina Championship for the mares and for the boys. This is the boys. So they have both. This come out of nowhere, these races. This time last year, I was doing a radio show in Sydney when they still had harness racing when we were in lockdown. And Anthony Butt said to me, I've got a rating 58 horse, which is like Cambridge Thursday afternoon or Thursday night horses. Like just a horse who's not on anybody's radar. It was racing at Menangle that day. He said, it's $10. He said, I reckon it'll win. It's a pretty good horse. So I'm setting it for what was in $1 million race. They had to divide it up because it became a regional championship. In the space of a year, he's gone from rating 58, which would be like being a one-win horse in New Zealand, to running third in the Miracle Mile, winning another Group 1, and he's probably the 4th best pacer in Australia, Greg. It's a remarkable story. And Anthony and Sonia, his fiancée, have done such a good job. They've gone from New South Wales down to Victoria. Their strike rate's astronomical. Yes, they have a lot of support from the Rosatis with all the stride horses, but plenty of other trainers have trained for the Rosatis and not made it work. I think Anthony's cunning enough and even-mannered enough that he knows how to deal with the expectations of being their trainer, and he's doing a super job. He also won the Warragul Cup with Perfect Stride, who's Chicago Bulls' little brother, a high-priced yearling a couple of years ago. This is him coming wide for Zach Phillips, who was doing the driving because, of course, Ant wasn't able to be there. With this sort of level of success, I think it's important because the Rosatis spend so much money that to keep them happy and keep them buying yearlings is crucial, Greg, and I think Anthony and Sonia together have been able to do that in what wouldn't be an easy job. So, yep, they're having great success. They've got a bunch of nice 2-year-olds to work with as well, and a little bit like Tony Hurley. We've always known Anthony to be a great driver, and maybe we didn't know what to make of him potentially as a trainer. Well, we do now. Yeah,
we do now, Michael, that's for sure. 2 very big wins for him over Easter. Ticky's Angel was the other Group 1 success there in New South Wales, Michael, and gave Cameron Hart, who we know here in New Zealand, really talented young reinsman, his first Group 1 success.
Yeah, and being at Wagga was great for him because his family's from Mudgee, so they were really close by, so it was huge for them. Pretty smart little horse. Actually went quicker than Wolf Stride did. So, look, Ticky's Angel may well be a better horse than we realise. Cameron, a good young driver to follow, 5th on the New South Wales Premiership. He's got a big future ahead of him.
Yeah, he certainly has. And next week we're going to do a wee profile piece on another young Australian driver, Angus Garrard. Garrard's get behind this show, and he's a young gun there in Queensland. So we're going to have a nice wee piece on him next week. Continuing our look in Australia with Garrard's and the expat Kiwi, Tornado Valley. Michael Guerin, he's now earned $1 million. And I went back through his stats. Before he left New Zealand, he had earned just over 40,000. Doesn't take long to work out just how much he's won in 3 or 4 seasons there.
Been remarkable, really. When a horse, this is only the 9th ever trotter. In Australia, he's won 990, but convert it back to New Zealand, he's won over $1 million. The 9th ever trotter in the Southern Hemisphere to win $1 million. Now, usually when a horse does that, they win at least some money at 3 or 4. Like, you know, I Can Do's, it wasn't a great 3-year-old, but he was a very good 4-year-old, so he got the bank account rolling. This horse's bank account, as you said, was enough money to buy you a Subway sandwich when he left New Zealand. So until he turned 5, he had no money in the bank. And he's done a super job, and he's won all that money the hard way because he's had to turn up as an older horse with all those nooks and crannies in his body and pain, and just done a super job for him and Andy Gath. Andy Gath's buying of New Zealand trotters, Gregory, is staggering. I don't think there'd be a strike rate like it anywhere in harness racing for someone who's bought horses they've never seen and they've never sat behind. And they buy them, take them to another country and just win race.
You know his latest edition, Michael?
One of my old mates, Globe Trekker.
Globe Trekker, yeah.
Globe Trekker's another one of his.
You reckon he might do a job?
Exactly. He's very good at finding them. I've spoken to him in depth about it. And he said what he does is often when he first sees a horse, like Globe Trekker's a horse I loved a year ago, he said you can't buy it first up because they want 100 for it. He said, I just wait. They run out of form eventually. People get sick of them. People get sick of the bills and they buy them for 30 or 40.
Yep.
Not a bad plan.
No, it's a great plan.
Well, it's good plan if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, he's done it with McLovin as well, so yeah, he certainly knows how to find them and doesn't just stop with those horses. Just on milestones, we'll get to one in a moment. Ricky May's only 12 off 3,000, so looking forward to him achieving that in the next couple of months. But Devon Van Til made it win number 1 out at the Mott and did that on Monday, working for Robert and John Dunn for the last 2.5 years. She's actually finished up there. This was her last weekend and she got the job done, getting through there in the Brecon colours, Michael. Nice way to wrap up your Easter weekend.
It is. Congratulations to Devon. And when I saw this horse win the other day, I wasn't really watching. I was sort of just catching it on the side of my eye on the television. Man, the Brecons have a footprint in harness racing. Like I saw these colours, I was like, why have they got a horse racing on the grass at the Mott? And then you realise how many trainers they have horses with, sponsoring races like the Easter Cup last weekend. They sponsor a whole bunch of things, obviously. It's easy to take them for granted, Greg, these sponsors who have horses in 4, 5, 6, 7 other stables. Woodlands is another one, obviously. But when you see those horses, you realise just how far that footprint and that economic impact for the industry is for people like them, not just them, but for the Brickens last week. And that's what I thought when I saw that. I didn't know it was her first victory, so it's important for anybody. It's nice to get them in a pretty special set of colours.
Yeah, only her 14th drive as well. John Dunn was doing what John Dunn does. 4th time he's got to 100 wins. This was the winning performance on Sunday, and I spoke to him about it. He said it was really nice to do it for Gavin Burgess on a rock and snap. Gavin's been a long time supporter of the Dunn stable, helped them out for many, many years, so he thought that was pretty cool. It's not so significant that he's done it 4 times, Michael, but it's just another example of how well he is driving and how well he does drive, and it gives us an opportunity to have a look at the premiership table as well in terms of driving. We know Blair Orange had a 6-week stint on the sideline, and it's allowed John to get close to him. He won't beat him as long as they're not suspended, either of them, or certainly Blair, over the next few months, and doesn't have time out because his body of work, if you want, a Michael Guerinism there, will be larger numbers-wise. So let's have a look at the Drivers' Premiership and just see where things sit there. So Blair's on 127, and he's had almost a couple of hundred more drives. Matthew Williamson there on 76. Tim Williams continues to drive well. One of his goals is to get to 100. He's on 67. Samantha Rotley continues to drive extremely well. 60 wins for her. And then you get to Nathan Williamson, and David Butcher's close to going past that 50 once again. John Morrison, the leading junior driver there, on 40, just ahead of Zachary Butcher. But good effort by John Dunn once again, and 3 of those drivers, Michael, up over the $1 million in stakes. So there's still plenty of money to be made by the absolute top-notch drivers.
The amazing thing about John Dunn is clearly he obviously also trains. So basically he trains the South Island team for these horses. But if Blair wasn't driving or ends up missing a season, John would win the premiership. The way things are at the moment, he would win the premiership. Got me thinking the other day, how many brothers would have won the premiership? Because I think Dexter won it like 12 times. He won it so many times it just became almost pointless
10.
caring.
Yep, 10 on the bounce.
How many brothers would have won the premiership? Now, obviously, before Dexter started winning it, Hurley, none of his brothers won it. His brother won an Auckland Marathon, but didn't win a drivers' premiership. Morris won a few of them, quite a few, and obviously Morris's brother, Danny, didn't win a premiership. Maybe it's happened somewhere further back with the Holmes family or somebody like that, but it doesn't automatically bounce into my mind that this person and his brother won the chair. You think of the O'Reillys as a team, but the O'Reillys wouldn't have won the premiership. No. The DeFilippi brothers, they both haven't won the premiership, even if Collins won one. I'm not sure about the answer to that. So, yeah, I guess it's probably happened a long time ago. Maybe the Donald family or something like that.
Yep.
But
I'll look into it, Michael. Try and get the answer for you.
You know, it's a remarkable thing to think that, you know, that John is, like Dexter is world class and John is so close to winning a premiership here. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to find out from somebody. I'm thinking it would need to be a hell of a long time ago. Yeah,
it would have been a long time ago. Anyway, we'll have a look into it and give you the answer next week. Time for us to take a short break here on your box seat. When we come back, we'll be in the home straight and building towards another enormous week in harness racing. It's Derby night at Addington Raceway Friday night. And the home straight in your box seat, and a big thank you once again to our stable of sponsors. Harness racing wise, Bay of Plenty Waikato, they race on Thursday night. We'll have a look at a Neville heat very shortly. 9 races there, 5:13 the start time for that. 7 at Alexandra Park on Friday night to complement Derby night at Addington Raceway. 6:39 the first of those. Addington have a bumper race day, 12 races. That means they start, yes, at 4:27. 12 races there with those two $25,000 guaranteed quaddies, and there's 12 again on Sunday at Methven, the start time there of 10 past 12. So Very, very busy in the Canterbury region with 24 races over the weekend. Michael, I talked about Cambridge and the Honey Queen. Let's have a look at her winning performance last time, and I know you're very keen on her this week. She's got the outside of the gate in the Neville heat, but she was sublime at the park, and I can't see any reason why she won't deliver at Cambridge on Thursday night.
Yeah, look, she's been very good. Obviously, she finished second in the Northern Oaks as well. This is her taking on males and predominantly older horses and thrashing them. She's got barrier 7 this week, which means you might get a price. I've actually gone for her as my bet of the week only because I think she has the gate speed to overcome a wide barrier draw, but that might add 20% to the price. Not sure what she'll come up as. Think she'll probably be too good for them. It's 1700, not a mile, which will be crucial for her. So she's the bet of the night, Gregory, out of Cambridge. And we're starting to think more and more about Cambridge because those jewels are now less than 2 months away and they have huge bookings, huge bookings. So if you want to get involved, if you're coming to Cambridge, you want to go because, hey, don't forget the Australians are coming now. Bubbles open. There's a tour of Australians coming. You better book your hospitality now. Otherwise, you could have a cold arse on the Sunday of the 6th of June.
Oh, we wouldn't like that, Michael. CambridgeRaceway.co.nz/harness jewels for all of those opportunities and packages there with David Branch and the team at Cambridge. Alexandra Park, Friday night, GregO. Let's have a look at his performance last time, Michael. That's him in the blue colours, blue and white colours of Anna Donnelly, and the blue headgear there. David Butcher struggling to get a run. Dance Time, who's a race rival again, won 3 of its last 4. But GregO's come up with barrier 2. That should be just about enough to see him winning this week.
Could well be, but I'm not going to tip him as a good thing because he's up against my old mate Christian's Have Time, who I have a bit of a love affair with. I think Christian's Have Time's a really good horse. So a lot of it might depend on intent. GregO may have more gate speed than Christian's Have Time, and therefore the chance to lead Have Time might cross them from out wide. So interesting little race, really good little race, and I'm glad these free-for-all type races are still going ahead at Alexandra Park because we need to blood these next bunch of open class horses through, Greg.
Yep, we certainly do. TAB's hits and misses for the week. Here's a list of them. Once again, highlighted in yellow, Michael Guerin came through. True Fantasy, someone had 6,000 at $2.30. Nice play there. Self-Assured, not too much of an issue there once it found the front. 2,500. And St. Waitaki got its maiden win at the Mott, 2.5 at $2.60. Few went missing though, Michael. Franco Yorick takes its place in the Livermore Derby on Friday night for the Trotters. 7.5 went down. Royal Pride won that race at $2.10. Town Echo, 3,000 at $3.50. And Passion and Power, they're in the same race. The race won by La Rosa. Charlie's Ace, 2,000 at $4.50 in the third at Motta Carrara, and Archman, the horse that Mighty Flying Harry went past for Devon Van Til, was well backed too. Michael, you've continued with door contracting to have a bit of a run. I've had a spell. Sean Daly, I actually saw him on Saturday night before his race. He was very excited. Couldn't quite get the business done, but he enjoyed the experience just the same. So I'm back. I'm having a go this week.
What have you come up with?
What am I going to stop this week? I'm sorry, Tony, and the connections are bolt for brilliance, but he has to be my bet of the week this week from barrier 1 in the Fred Shaw Trotting Championship.
Sorry, mate, I'm just going to pop away and back Sunday now. Just
okay, good.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Look, I hope you're right. I hope he does win. I'm going to go the Honey Queen. I just think she'll probably get the lead there. But what I'm trying to do with these bets of the week, by the way, is not be heroic. I'm trying to find you even money. And if you, my golden rules is if you've got $100 to spend and never bet more than you should, have half you spend on the horse you think's going to win. So this week I think it's the Honey Queen. You have your 50 on that. Only bet where you can afford to lose. Then do what you want throughout the 50. Have a quaddie or a pick 6 or whatever. That's the way I bet, Greg. I like to have a proper bet on the horse I like. And if you want to have a few baby bets around that, that's cool. And I've been trying to drag that. With the boys get paid and all those sort of groups, I've been trying to tell people how to bet. Because you're better off having one good bet on the horse you like than having 10 bets for 10% of your stake, because then if the horse you like wins, you've only had 10% of your stake on it. So that's why I'm going for sort of $2, $2.50 is my sort of range for usually betting for this week, Greg. And doesn't mean it's everybody's cup of tea, but if you stick to it, you'll end up in front.
I'm just trying to find a winner, Michael. That would do me, just one. Just one.
Yeah.
Get me off the
Hey,
drought.
brother, we've all had them. I think the first 5 weeks back this year I missed every time. So it happens. It doesn't mean you're a bad or good judge. As you know, some things just don't go your way.
Yep. Should have mentioned last week too, Shut Up and Dance, who made it 3 from 3 from the Regan Todd barn. Really talented. I think it's collectively, Michael, over its 3 wins was over 15 lengths, its winning margins, but unfortunately there was always an issue there, and we won't see her race again, but we hope her progeny we'll get to see on the racetrack, because she was very, very fast. That wraps up the box seat for this week. Next week we'll go over everything that unfolded on Derby night at Addington Raceway, have that nice wee piece with Angus Garrard as well, and build, Michael, towards Auckland, where it'll be Anzac Cup, Road Cup, Messenger, Taylor Mile. Gee, there's a lot to look forward to in the next month.
There is, but the biggest news of the week, obviously, Trans-Tasman Bubble. We have plenty of viewers in Australia. It's great that you join us from time to time, and we hope it complements in the gig for you over there. If you want to get away, Cambridge is wonderful. It's the home of Waikato Stud. It's the home of Cambridge Stud, obviously. You can come into Auckland. If you feel like, if you're a harness racing fan, Jules, it's on a Sunday. Come into Auckland on a Friday. I'm not being a tourism minister. Just come enjoy yourself. We would love to see you at the Jules at Cambridge. It'll be a lot of fun. So that bubble was open. Yeah, get on there and try and come and see some class harness racing, because you will be well looked after. It will be a very fun weekend, and probably one of the great horse towns of the world.
Yeah, it certainly is. That'll be the 6th of June, but that's your box seat for the week. Both of us will see you in 7 days' time.